Hi students, these are some quick notes over finding the end behaviors of a polynomial from its equation. We know the equation of a polynomial in f of x equals a times x to the p power. A is called the leading coefficient because it's in front. It's the coefficient that's in the very front. And p is called the degree of the polynomial. The degree of the polynomial is the highest power. So we always start our polynomial with the highest power and we trickle down to the constant. So short and sweet. If A is positive, the leading coefficient. If A is positive, then the graph will rise on the right side. The graph will be rising on the right. If A is negative, then the graph will fall on the right side. If P is an even number, if P is an even power, the arrows are even with each other. In other words, they're going in the same direction. They're either both up or the arrows are both down. If P is odd, the arrows are opposite. I always remember odd starts with an O, opposite starts with an O. So if P is odd, the arrows go in opposite directions. So if it's up on the left, then it'll go down. Sorry, if it's up on the right, then it'll be down on the left. Or if it's down on the right, it would be up on the left. So in other words, the arrows go in opposite directions. So you got two things. If A is positive, the graph rises on the right. If A is negative, the graph falls on the right. So if P is even, the arrows are even or they're going in the same direction. If P is odd, the arrows are going in opposite directions. So let's try a couple. And it says to use limits to describe the end behaviors. Let's just do all the end behaviors and we'll come back and do a couple limits. So notice that my terms are put in order. I have x's to the fourth, x's to the second, x's to the first, and then the constant. So that makes -3 my leading coefficient. So a equals -3, and p, the power, p is 4. So if my leading coefficient is negative, I know my graph is falling on the right side. If my power is even, my arrows will be even with each other. So, or in other words, going the same direction. So my arrow on the left has to also be going down. Let's do the one right below. So notice that my powers are in order. I have x's to the fifth, x's to the third, x's to the second, x's to the first, and a constant. So they are in order. And notice that my leading coefficient in this problem is a 1. Leading coefficient is a 1, and my power is an odd number. So if the leading coefficient is positive, it is always going to rise on the right. If my power is odd, my arrows will be opposite each other, so it's down on the left. Okay, let's try the one right beside. We have -4x to the fifth. So if my leading coefficient's negative, my graph will fall on the right. If my power is odd, then my arrows are in opposite directions, so it would have to be moving up on the left. Okay, last example, 6x to the fourth. My leading coefficient is +6, which means it's rising on the right side of the graph. And my degree is even, so the arrows will be even with each other. So it is moving up on the left as well. Okay, let's do the limit. Let's use limits to describe the end behaviors, maybe for a couple of them. So although this graph is moving down, it is also moving left. So the limit of f of x as my x values approach -infinity, my limit or my y values are also approaching -infinity. This end behavior the limit of f of x as my x values are approaching. So not only is it going down, but it's also moving to the right. So my x values are approaching positive infinity. My limit, or my y values, are approaching negative infinity because the graph is going down. All right, let's just do maybe one more. Well, we've been doing limits for quite a while. I feel pretty comfortable. Okay, the end behavior on the left. So the limit of f of x as my x values approach negative infinity. My limit, or my y values, are also approaching negative infinity. Now this one over here, the limit of f of x as x approaches positive infinity, because it's moving to the right. It's not only moving up, but it's also moving to the right. My limit, or my y values, are approaching positive infinity. All right, that's just about that. So have a good day, guys.